Growing up with the original Pokemon back in the days, I find it very hard to forget the magic of Ken Sugimori's painterly style. I mean, look how amazing his Pokemon look. It almost feels like his artwork is the one and only official version of Pokemon, and you can see it with the community too. Many fans try to recreate his style on a daily basis, and I took it upon myself the last 2 weeks to throw my hat in the ring and try to recreate it as well, but in 3D using Blender as the only software. Now, it's clear that a 3D software could never recreate authentic watercolor techniques used on a real canvas with real paint, but in setting this challenge, I wanted to make sure that I could recreate Sugimori's art style as close as possible, and it turns out that it's not too difficult to recreate a faithful imitation. I asked myself if I could recreate it in Blender on my own without any additional add-ons or software, but before I do that, I needed to decide on a Pokemon to try this with, and out of all the 1,160 different Pokemon and forms, Lugia ended up becoming my prime choice. He fits with the old school Pokemon era, his Japanese origins fit the watercolor painting style, and if you know about his artist's origins, you know he carries a lot of value. Now, before setting out this journey, it all started by analyzing Sugimori's art itself. Here are some key features that make up his signature art style. The first thing that pops out is how irregular the fills are. Since it's painting, you can see that the colors are strongest at the core of the paint stroke and fade away around the edges, almost like a feathering technique you'd see in digital art. The second thing that you notice is the harsh highlights. They're so aggressive that they're fully white. That's another key feature of Sugimori's art style. It almost feels like his artwork is always rendered in harsh sunlight. Another important detail is the line art, and more specifically how irregular it is. It doesn't follow a consistent stroke thickness, it varies a lot. And one last crucial element is that the canvas these kinds of paintings are rendered on usually have fine detail, and that's something I've had to consider when creating this shading system. Once I've got it all figured out, it was time to take a breather, open up a new Blender file, and make it all happen. On day one, it all starts with creating the main star itself, Lugia. I began by blocking it with basic shapes in a basic pose. This is a stage where your artwork will always look weird and off, but it's okay because this is where you are simply generating its basic look. First you create it, then you make it better. This is what sculpting was for. Once those final shapes were blocked in, I would join them into a mesh and began sculpting them all into a final accurate figure. Sculpting is always one of my favorite stages in a 3D project. There's this relaxing quality to it, and it's easy to lose yourself in the process. Once sculpting Lugia was complete, I had to retopologize it. And retopologizing is where you have to create a new mesh based on the sculpt you made, but this time with proper topology. This way it's easier to rig because of its correct edge flows, it's less taxing on your computer since it uses a lot less polygons, and it's easier to create textures for it because you easily create seams. But to be honest with you, for this particular project, creating texture maps wasn't necessary other than drawing the pattern on its belly. The rest of it is all done with shading nodes. Which, speaking of, this is the core of the watercolor Sugimori style shading nodes I ended up using. Here's a quick demonstration with the monkey head. Using the Eevee render engine and an emission node, I added in a Voronoi node and connected it to a color ramp from its color socket. I then set the Voronoi node to smooth F1. Then I added in a noise texture node, connected it to a color ramp node, and then directly into the randomness value of the Voronoi node. So what I just did was create the basis of the paint brush strokes with the Voronoi node, and then use the noise node group to distort it until it looked like a paint stroke. Painting is all about light and shadows, so to respect that principle, I also added an ambient occlusion node in the setup and mixed it with the Voronoi node group by using a mixed color node set to color dodge, and just like that, I had the basis of my Ken Sugimori art style in 3D. And to respect the line art, I used the inverted Hall effect using a solidify modifier and added in a displace modifier to give it the irregularities just like Ken Sugimori's line art. If you'd like a detailed tutorial on this art style in Blender, please let me know in the comment section below and I'll be happy to make one. Now obviously this T-pose wasn't going to be final, so I had to create a skeleton system using bones to create what's called a rig that will allow me to manipulate Lugia's retopologized mesh into its final pose. Since this wasn't meant to be a complex rig made for deep animation or gaming, I kept it pretty simple so I could control the main parts of his body, like the torso, tail, arms, fingers, etc. It's always important to know how much energy to give to each section of the project to keep things rolling smoothly and not feel deflated. Now that Lugia was done, it was time to build a world around it. Waves crashing and thunderous clouds, I wanted the Sugimori style Lugia to be in its element. Plus, it's not rare to see waves and clouds in Asian-inspired paintings, so I got motivated to see if I could recreate them in 3D as well. To be honest, making those assets wasn't the most difficult thing. I used the same shading principles I used on Lugia. What was hard was deciding whether or not I wanted a daytime scene or a nighttime scene. And after endless experimentation, I ended up going for nighttime. It fits with Lugia's bluish color scheme better. For the water, I would use a low poly circle and added subdivision surface modifiers on it to give it more polygons. This way I can add in a displace modifier with a Voronoi texture map to create the waves. The clouds were used with metal balls that I would randomly put together and later converted them into a mesh so I can further modify them in sculpt mode and modify their shapes to my liking. As for the thunder, they're just simple planes with faces extruded in a way that shapes stylized lightning. What was hard though was figuring out the waves. There's so many ways to approach them, and that's something you really encounter when working on a project. The more options you have to solve a problem, the harder it is to commit to one. What really messed me up was figuring out how to make the foam. It always looked so detailed in the paintings. How was I going to approach this in 3D? And after a few hours of experimentation, I made the main waves with curves, whose shapes were made thanks to another circle curve. It would break the wave apart and give it texture. By the way, this is a similar process when creating low polygon hair for characters. I would convert them into meshes, and in sculpt mode, I would mask portions where the foam would go. I would extract them into a new mesh, and from there, add in a remesh modifier that would break the topology apart if you put the resolution low enough, and just like that, I got my foam. I felt something was missing in my scene though. In an ocean this vast, there should be other Pokemon laying around. That's when I had the idea to model a Dragonair and a Magikarp. Dragonair because, I'll be honest, at this point I was getting a little tired and wanted to finish the artwork, so I went with an easy Pokemon to model. And Magikarp because its bright orange body could contrast well with the blue hues of the scene. After modeling and coloring them in a separate Blender file, I would import them into Lugia's file and place them around in the scene. Having a few more Pokemon in the water feels better. It feels more populated. Finally, I would make a small animation for Lugia to give it more life, and just like this, the artwork came to a close. All in all, I like how it turned out. It's very difficult to recreate 2D stylization in 3D. How can you create imperfections made by real human hands with precise, perfect machine tools? It's not always obvious, but it is satisfying to get good enough results. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below and I will get to them as fast as I can. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.